Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you know what that sound means. Time for In the Paddock F1. Greeny and the cheese. The 2024 F1 season is underway. 24 races, 1,446 laps to come. We start 263 miles as the crow flies from where we finish the season. But we start in the Kingdom of Bahrain, known as the Island of Pearls, for that pearl farming industry they got going on, and also known for the groves of date palm trees. You want some dates, Michael?
I like dates. I like date palms as well. They're a beautiful tree.
This isn't no travel show, this is an F1 show. And we are 11 miles from the capital of Manama on an old camel farm. Yes, we raced the Bahrain International Circuit, 3.36 miles, 3 DRS zones, 15 corners. You give it the full beans for 75% of your lap. And, well, let's just be dead honest. We start the new campaign pretty much where we left off the last campaign, with full max domination. Trust is in Adrian Newey. As Jeremy Clarkson said during Brundle's grid walk, trust in that man. A Red Bull 1-2 finish. Carlos rounds out the podium. We're caffeinated. We're medicated. Let's go. The season's underway.
Like Jeremy Clarkson said, who you got your money on? I got my money on Adrian Newey. Welcome to the post-Gunter Steiner era of Formula One. Away we go, as like you said, exactly where we left off with Max Verstappen and Red Bull complete domination. Ferrari playing second fiddle got lucky to end up third, fourth, in my opinion, as Mercedes had a little trouble as well. Lewis Hamilton coming back at the end there to take seventh. Didn't look great all day. And George Russell definitely had some issues all day there. So quite interesting for everyone else besides Red Bull. Red Bull just made it look easy. Sergio Perez took over there on lap 14 as he overtook George Russell coming out of the pits. And that was pretty much the race right there at that point. Shortly after that, Lewis Hamilton had some battery issues. If you didn't know about D-rate, which I still am not really sure what the heck was going on with the batteries and the issues, but a lot of battery issues going on across the board. Charles Leclerc did not look as he would like to look, and it looks like Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are going to hate each other's guts all season. Cheese, how do you feel about the first race of 2024?
Well, I got a couple takeaways here for you. You know, Red Bull, as expected, coming out of testing, they're the team to beat, and far and above the team to beat. Max is, I don't know, another dimension compared to everybody else right now. I mean, he's even way above. What did he finish? 20-something seconds ahead of Sergio. So, I mean, he's far and away even better than his teammate. Ferrari's second fiddle. Leclerc struggled. Apparently, there's, from what he said, it was a brake issue. So, I mean, that can definitely affect your driving. Carlos, brilliant drive. Did they make the wrong move? Passing on Carlos so early. Couple other takeaways. Mercedes, overheating issues. The only Mercedes-powered car that didn't have an issue was McLaren. Williams was overheating. You could see it when they did the in-car cam. It was in bright red lettering on the steering wheel. Overheating. I
think it said car too hot. If I was driving that car and that thing came on your dash, car too hot, huge letters. That was crazy. You pull over immediately. And they just just press some buttons and ignore that. Let's ignore that.
Let's ignore that.
It was like exclamation points.
Exclamation points. But it looks like Mercedes has an overheating issue. I mean, George Russell had it. He faded way off at the end. Looks like he was even having more deg issues than his teammate Lewis was. I mean, Lewis didn't seem happy with the car. Period. The entire race. It looks like Mercedes might have some issues. McLaren looked all right. I mean, but in reality, if you think about it, the top 5 teams were pretty much almost as expected coming out of testing. And, teams now have, some extra issues to try and fix before they even tried to mount a challenge with Red Bull, which is, far and above everybody else. Maybe not on quali day, but race day, where they hand out the awards and the points. That's when they show up. That was my pretty much takeaways from the race.
Yeah, absolutely putrid performance again by Haas. You talk about the back end of the race. Obviously, as we said, the front end, top 5 teams, only teams to score points. That will change. It felt very like 2018 out there today.
Yeah.
But that will change.
It's the first race.
It's the first race. Everyone kind of stacked up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
The Alpine is trash. The Alpine is absolute trash. So that's a takeaway.
And I'm sure we'll get to that later as well. Honestly, seeing Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, I think that was a 4th consecutive race dating back to last year that they were both starting 1-2, but not finishing 1-2. So everything Charles Leclerc, and that would be my concern. Hey, that all those lockups. All those lockups were very concerning for Charles's car.
Well, he said there was a brake issue and the car was pulling when he was hitting the brakes. So that's definitely gonna. You're not gonna be as confident to race with anybody if you don't have confidence in your brakes. It seemed to. I don't know, something seemed to be better near the end of the race, or George Russell was just running that slow at the end of the race.
Yeah.
For him to close up. And then once he passed George Russell, he toasted him from that point on, too. So Mercedes has some issues to really look into, to be that honest. The Ferraris had one Ferrari had an issue, and they were still far and above better than anybody else. So they're looked to be probably the second best team, as we had probably pretty much predicted coming out of testing. And then it was going to be, the fight between McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston from that point.
Yeah,
Aston didn't have a bad day getting both cars in the points either. So
no, but not at all. Lance
my
Stroll
take,
just tried to blow it from the first turn 1. He tried to blow it. Tried to blow it turn 1. Came back. I thought he was done. I thought
he was hit.
Aston Martin bet was done.
He was hit by your boy there, Hulkenberg.
At the back. That's what happens.
That's what happens. But
that's what happens when you're driving with Haas. When you're in the back with Haas to start, and this is why you need to qualify and get to Q3. If you're a top 5 team, you should be getting into Q3, so you're not in the situation, not that a Haas didn't get into Q3 in the rare instance, as happened this weekend, but at the same time, if you end up in the back of the pack, you end up with worse drivers and worse cars and a worse situation. It's not just the fact of the clean air in the front.
Yeah.
It's not just the fact of the ability of the drivers. It is the ability of the drivers in the front versus those in the back. There's a reason some drivers drive for Alpine and Stake and Haas, and other drives for Mercedes and Ferrari and Mercedes and Red Bull. There's a reason. It's not by accident. So when you end up with the goons in the back, that's sometimes what happens. But yeah, Williams overheating, that was crazy seeing that inside the car.
It's the Mercedes power plant. The only one that didn't seem to have any type of overheating issue was McLaren.
Yep.
But Williams and Mercedes themselves both had overheating issues.
Yeah. And what was up as, if those who watched the race, around lap 14, Hamilton said his battery's at 1%. Can you explain what the battery situation was for those who may not understand?
He overused it. That's just what happened. He didn't recharge the battery at all and just kept on using the battery, and he ran out of battery. Plain and simple. You got to monitor that. You got to be able to. You have to recharge your battery at some points, but he just kept on using it, and then you don't have any. And then you're losing a bunch of horsepower, then you're in a bit of trouble.
For those of us who look at our phones during lunch and it's at 10% battery and you're not really sure why, I guess that's kind of the closest you can get. Wait, what do you mean I'm at 10%? I got another 6 hours to go here. Like, no, you're at 10% battery. So I guess that's kind of the same feeling that Lewis Hamilton had. But interesting day. Why do you think Lewis Hamilton was overusing the battery today?
Just trying to keep up, I guess, and try and make some moves there at the beginning of the race. I mean, it can happen if you're not monitoring it that closely, if you're just trying to push. But, eventually you got to let off and you have to recharge it. There's usually a good balance you try and have per lap on the amount of battery you want to use. But then you also want to have enough there if you need to attack. So,
yep.
It happens.
Absolutely. Final question before we move on to some more important things, mostly including Greedy Bucks, and see how that's going down from yesterday. Interesting. But after the first race, I know we have a humongous tons and tons of season. This is race 1. How are you feeling about Ferrari swapping Carlos Sainz for Lewis Hamilton after the first race?
I mean, it is what it is. It's the first race. Carlos is going to drive mad now. It's a big motivator when you're trying to get a job somewhere else. So he's going to put out his best performance.
Damn straight. Man's going to drive angry all season, and it should be an interesting one for Ferrari. After the first race, who do you think's going to finish ahead, Carlos or Charles this year in Ferrari? Who's going to have more points?
It's too early to tell.
Go out on a limb.
I'll probably say Charles in the end.
All right. That's fair. Third, fourth, once
again. You have car issues, it's definitely going to affect you, so.
2 Red Bulls on the podium. A Ferrari made the podium. That's, you know what? If you get a Ferrari on the podium every single race this year, if you get a Ferrari on the podium, say 20 out of 24 races, you'll be a happy man. That's for damn sure. Thank you all so much for checking out this episode of In the Paddock F1 with Greeny and the Cheese. If you want to watch more or listen to the entire episode, the link is down below in the comments, or you can always check us out anywhere you find your podcast. In the Paddock F1 with Greeny and the Cheese. Thank you all for listening.